About 40% of Europe's natural gas comes from Russia, with most of it being carried by the pipeline. Can Europe replace all Russian gas? What happens if Russia shuts off gas supplies to Europe? What are Europe's energy alternatives now that Russian gas is off the cards? Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll talk about the gas conflict, and we'll look into if Europe can replace all Russian gas. Before we get into the video, don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure that the post notifications are turned on so that you never miss a video from us. Without further ado, let's dive in. Russia has long been the major natural gas supplier to the European Union. Following gas conflicts with Ukraine in 2006 and 2009, as well as tensions following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2014, the EU has attempted to lessen its reliance on Russian natural gas imports. Russia, on the other hand, continues to supply roughly 40% of the EU gas consumption. The invasion of Ukraine by Russia has thrown this relationship into doubt. All Russian gas flows to Europe must now be terminated, and preparations must be made. A portfolio of initiatives must be implemented on both the supply and demand sides to replace the 1,550 terawatt-hours of Russian gas sent to the EU in 2021. The use of liquefied natural gas is projected to be critical. Fixed pipeline infrastructure transports a large portion of Russia's gas supply to Europe. LNG, on the other hand, is typically carried by ship, making switching suppliers easier. This month, the European Commission approved a plan to reduce Russian gas shipments by 2/3 by the end of the year. In order to do so, it expects an additional 500 terawatt-hours of LNG to be imported into Europe in 2022, on top of the 750 terawatt-hours imported in 2021. That number reflects a major scale-up that'll necessitate the removal of multiple obstacles in order to materialize. The first is LNG production capacity around the world. Global LNG trade reached 5,400 terawatt-hours in 2021. Due to a scarcity of LNG, prices more than doubled between December 2020 and December 2021. Even though Russia reduced gas supplies after the summer of 2021, demand in Europe increased. Global output is predicted to increase by 100 to 300 terawatt-hours by 2022 compared to 2021 levels. However, estimates indicate that the market will remain highly tight. Furthermore, the market is dominated by long-term contracts, which means that even if the EU customers are ready to pay high prices, they're not promised sales. The LNG industry has grown on the backs of 20 to 25-year contracts, which are important for both sellers and purchasers to justify the large investments needed to build liquefaction plants and receiving ports. Markets have gotten more flexible in recent years, particularly since the United States has emerged as a key supplier.
Today, the price of gas in America on average is $3.40 a gallon. In California, it's much higher. The impact is real.
It's on track to become the world's largest LNG producer by the end of this year. Notably, the EU received 30% of US LNG shipments in January 2022. Nonetheless, a large portion of increased LNG imports in the EU would have to come from existing flows to Asia and the Americas. What are the other sources of supply available to Europe? Although the global gas market was tight even before the Ukraine crisis, several nations have alternate supply possibilities, and Europe's gas network is integrated, so supplies can be shared. Germany, Europe's largest user of Russian gas, might import gas via pipelines from the United Kingdom, Denmark, Norway, and the Netherlands, despite the fact that certification of the new Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from Russia has been stopped due to the Ukraine crisis. BDU, Germany's utility group, has urged the government to develop an emergency plan to prepare the country for Russian gas supply disruptions. Equinor, a Norwegian company, says it's studying measures to increase gas production from its Norwegian fields throughout the next summer in Europe, when output is typically affected by maintenance. LNG plants in the United States are operating at full capacity, according to analysts, and additional gas supplied to Europe would have to originate from exports that would have gone elsewhere. The capacity of Europe's LNG terminals is similarly limited for additional imports, while certain European governments have stated that they're looking into ways to increase imports and storage. Are there any alternative options for dealing with a gas scarcity? Several countries could aim to replace any energy supply gaps by importing electricity from neighboring states via interconnectors or increasing power generation from nuclear, renewables, hydropower, or coal. According to the European Commission, gas and LNG from nations such as the United States and Qatar might replace 60 billion cubic meters (BCM) of Russian gas this year. Increased use of biomethane and hydrogen by 2030 could also help. New wind and solar projects could replace 20 billion cubic meters of gas demand this year, while tripling capacity by 2030, adding 480 gigawatts of wind and 420 gigawatts of solar, which could save 170 billion cubic meters each year. Turning down thermostats by 1 degree Celsius this year might save 10 BCM, while replacing gas boilers with 30 million heat pumps by 2030 could save 35 BCM, according to the Commission. As reactors age, decommission, or phase out, nuclear availability is decreasing in Belgium, the United Kingdom, France, and Germany. Europe has been attempting to move away from coal in order to fulfill climate commitments, but due to rising gas prices, several coal facilities have been turned back on since mid-2021. Germany has stated that it may consider extending the life of coal or nuclear power reactors in order to reduce its reliance on Russian gas. Countries have also attempted to decrease industrial production at specific periods, pay backup generators to turn on supplies, order families to minimize energy use, or impose temporary power cuts in previous crises. Analysts predict that if Germany does not receive enough gas to meet its needs, the country's industry, which accounts for a quarter of the country's total gas consumption, will be struck first. The EU will likely be able to weather a large-scale disruption in Russian gas supply until the summer, thanks to a mix of increased LNG imports, to the extent that this is logically possible, and demand-side measures like industrial gas curtailments. However, this could come at a cost to the EU economy, and some nations may be forced to take emergency measures as a result. However, if the Russian gas embargo is extended into the coming winters, the EU will find it increasingly difficult to adapt. On the supply side, there is some spare import capacity, but achieving the scale needed to completely replace Russian volumes would be at best prohibitively expensive and at worst physically impossible. Global liquefaction capacity restrictions, current LNG market obligations, and commercial opportunity considerations in producing countries in regard to diverting cargoes away from Asia are all limiting issues. Pricing implications and second-round effects on the poorest countries would also be present. As a result, the EU would have to rely on demand-side policies, which would be painful for various countries' constituencies. This will create concerns about how to equitably distribute the load. To manage the issue in an orderly manner, difficult and costly decisions would have to be made. With this, we come to an end. Subscribe for more content just like this one and share it with your friends. Until then, fellas,